Shivo Data, Shivo Bhokta, Shiva Sarvam Idam Jagat, Tasmat Shabdartha Chirdasu Nasa
Shiva is the giver, Shiva is the eater, Shiva is this whole world. Therefore, whether in words, in things, or in thought, there is no state that is not Shiva. And this is not only from Spandakarika, and it is in many tantras, several tantras, this phrase comes. Before we come back to our text, is it on? Yeah. I want to explain you why I have kept this photo of Shiva here. He is not from India, but from Vietnam. So first of all, you can imagine how far Shaivism, not only Buddhism, but Shaivism also has spread to all these countries, Cambodia, Indonesia, Vietnam, and there are many other such sculptures in Vietnam. I have never been there, but I've heard. He is now in the museum in Paris. And I keep him as a model for meditation. Originally, he had 10 hands, of which only 2 are now preserved in their original position. And he is a model for meditation, and even in this broken form, one hand, the right hand, is still in meditation on his right knee. The left upper raised hand is holding the skull bowl, but I interpret it as one hand is going within in meditation, the other is going out. So that is supporting, upholding. Whatever we gain in meditation has also to reach outside, as we have seen that whole idea of bodhicitta, that it has to be used or made fruitful for upraising the world. His whole body is filled with prana, and you can feel, if you just sit before it, that this is a prana which is completely stilled. There is no movement. It is stilled. The body is only a body of prana. And his third eye, we just have had a seminar on Netra Tantra, that is the Tantra of the third eye of Shiva. His third eye is that which gives you clarity of insights and which makes you overcome all duality. And those snakes are very lively. They are very lively, and they make a knot at his heart chakra. But those very living snakes, they cannot disturb his stillness of meditation and his centeredness. And of course, you can also discover the chakras. I'm not going into this. And the half moon is, of course, above the Sahasrara, and he doesn't have a jata, but a crown, which again, that chakra which goes above Sahasrara is Dvadashanta, external Dvadashanta. And of course all the deities and enlightened beings are sitting on a lotus, but we have to take it very seriously. Sitting on a lotus means on the seat of purity. Lotus is a symbol of purity. So that is the asana. Asana is purity, and then this whole energy of prana rising up, not with any movement, but in complete stillness, and with these two hands which somehow bridge the inner and the outer. You can have a look more closely and just meditate on this image. Now, you may be feeling a kind of contradiction that you have been told that this way of recognition is an easy path and it leads to sudden enlightenment, and now you find yourself confronted with such a difficult text which does not seem to be that Sukhopaya which you have been expecting. But what is the pedagogy of Kshemaraja and of all the great authors of this tradition is that you are led from the lowest to the highest, and nothing is left out. And this is precisely the tantric path. That's why you have this list of the 36 tattvas. No level is left out, but it has to be not transformed, but experienced as pervaded by that divine consciousness. That's why Shiva is pervading all the tattvas from the lowest to the highest. And these sutras and commentaries which we have read so far, of course, they also have to integrate whatever burden they have inherited from the tantras, so they cannot leave all that out, but have to reinterpret it in the light of non-dual philosophy, non-dual experience. And these sutras and reflections are a preparation for the disclosing, and always this image of opening the eyes, unmesha or unmilana, that disclosing of that secret of recognition. And the analysis of these structures, whether they are in the universe or in the human consciousness, are essential to understand what is obstructing us and what is hindering us from this sudden enlightenment. Now, for those who have the book, I just mentioned, because we don't have time to go into such details, but there is a table. What we did yesterday, on page 130 in Jaidev Singh's book, very useful table of the 7 levels of perceivers with their corresponding experience, a corresponding deity, and so on. So that you can, those who have the book, they can go through it to come back to that. But we cannot go back to Sutra 3 because we have a lot to cover in these few days. But the last, I would just come back to the last sentence of the commentary on Sutra 3. I have this, such a small print of Sanskrit, so I made an enlarged photocopy, 54. Apitu Sri Paramashiva Pataraka Eva Itam Nana Vaichitrya Sahasrai Spurati. What is our problem in this path to enlightenment? one problem is this: what are we doing with all this multiplicity? The world is so full of multiplicity, and how to integrate this into a unitary experience. And this is precisely what he says here. After going through all these stages and levels of perceivers and levels of consciousness, this is at the level of Paramashiva, who transcends all these 36 tattvas. Just a moment. This is another translation. All the entities exist only in the form of that light of consciousness, and the multiplicity, what does he say? What is practically meant to is that in actuality the highest blissful Shiva alone manifests himself in this way in numerous forms of multiplicity. So this is where it comes to that all this multiplicity, it is not negated, but it is seen in the light of that divine consciousness. And then the little phrase of introduction to the next sutra. Yatacha Bhagavan Vishva Sharira Tata. Now, as the Lord has the universe as his body, even so, and then follows the sutra. In the same way, Chitti Sankochatma Chetanopi Sankuchita Vishvamaya. Now here comes one very important term. There are many pairs of terms by which you can understand the whole of Kashmir Shaivism. One of these pairs is Sankocha Vikasa. There's no space now, but afterwards I'll write. Sankochatma, and the opposite is Vikasa. Sankocha means contraction, constraint, contraction. And Vikasa, opening, unfoldment, expansion. So these are basically the two sections of the Pratyabhijñā Hṛdayam. One relates to Sankocha, the state of contraction of consciousness, and then we are led to that Vikasa, that unfoldment and that expansion of consciousness. And there is a sutra which is my favorite sutra, but you have to be a little patient to wait for that, which is precisely where this Vikasa starts, where this opening of the heart starts. And before we go into the sutra and the commentary, which is very important, I want to quote from Abhinavagupta, the great master of Kshemaraja, which a verse which is in the Paratrishika Vivarana, which shows how liberal these thinkers were. Sankochayanti hridayam nahi shastra pasha, no samvidam galushayet yatayam chalokaha, samyak svabhava bhadavi paripurna rupa, saiva ulasad layabhara parita stiti syad. It's very poetic also. The bonds of Shastras cannot constrict the heart, nor can this world contaminate consciousness. So neither the religious bondage nor the worldly societal bondage can constrict the heart. May there be the state of absolute fullness, filled with absorption flashing forth, the true natural part of the essence of plenitude. So this is beautiful because he clearly expresses it's not that we have to renounce the world and turn to the Shastras. No, the Shastras can also be very restrictive and constraining. We know many religious people are so under this, so many rules to observe, and so this is also constraining the heart. So he says it very clearly. Even those Shastras can be a burden. But it is a matter of attaining that fullness of consciousness. Now coming to our sutra. Chitti Sankochatma Chetanopi Sankuchita So he plays with two words, this Sankocha and Chitti Chetana. That is at different stages, aspects of consciousness, which there will be one sutra with all those aspects of consciousness from the absolute down to the individual. The individual experient also, no, this is in whom chitti or consciousness is contracted, has the universe as his body in a contracted form. Sankuchita Vishva Maya. And in a more meaningful translation, we who are a limited consciousness are microcosms of that universal consciousness in a contracted form. So our body is a microcosm of that universal consciousness body of Shiva. And we are going to listen, maybe not today or tomorrow, there is a stotra by Abhinavagupta, Dehastha Devata Chakra Stotra, is a hymn to the deities residing in one's own body, and where every part of the body is presided over by one deity and is praised and is offering worship, etc. So the difference between Shiva and ourselves is only this Sankocha. We are the same universal being, but in a contracted form. Sankuchita, Sankuchitatma. And the difference is here between Chitti and Chetana. Chitti, as we know from the first sutra, is that absolute universal consciousness. And then when it comes down to the level of the conscious being, it becomes Chetana. Chetana is an embodied consciousness, so to say. But even this is Vishvamaya, is universal in a contracted form. So what we say that actually we are on the way to sudden enlightenment, but that sudden enlightenment also, there are stages of making us realize this universal nature, which is our own, very own nature. And one of the stages is precisely to understand that our body is a microcosm of the universal divine body. And this is a tremendous, what a different attitude to the body and, of course, to consciousness. Now, Sri Paramashiva Svatmaikyena Stitam Vishvam Sadashiva Adi Uchitena Rupena Avabhibhasaishu. Now, this is a very long compound which I'm not going to burden you with. But then there comes one sentence, we are going to translate everything. Prakasha Bhedena Prakasha Manataya Spurati Tata Chit Rasa Ashyanata Rupa Ashesha Tattva Bhuvana Bhava Tatat Pramatre Adi Atma Atmataya Api Pratate. The magnificent highest Shiva, desiring to manifest the universe which lies in him as identical with himself in the form of Sadashiva, so that it comes down to the tattvas, and other appropriate forms, flashes forth at first as non-different from the light of consciousness, but not experiencing the unity of consciousness, of which, now this is another state, Anashrita Shiva is isolated Shiva who is not connected with the tattvas, and he's disconnected, so to say. And being is yet more void than the void. This shunya atishunya, it is this one stage of void which is, the shunya alone is sometimes the lower shunya, that you go through a phase of emptiness, which is not the highest shunya. Then comes shunya ati shunya, that void, voider than the void, which is that absolute void in a sense. Then he unfolds himself in the totality of manifestations, principles, worlds, entities, etc., and their respective experience that are only a solidified form of Chit. Now, this is a beautiful conception of Kashmir Shaivism. What are these material things? What are they in relation to consciousness? They are something like you have water and ice. They are a congealment or a crystallization of consciousness. Or sugar cane juice and crystallized sugar. So it's a crystallization of consciousness. So what we have already said that this whole philosophy and spirituality is very fluid, very dynamic, and that word rasa is so important not only in aesthetics and in spirituality, in all fields. Rasa means that essential, the essence or that juice, and that always in a joyful sense. Now, what is this universe? What all these objects in the universe? They are nothing but congealment or a crystallization of consciousness. Chit rasa ashyana. There is one shloka which Swamiji has taught us to recite, which is praising Bhairava in the form of the world. It's the same theme like here, who has taken form in as congealment of consciousness. So it's this descending of the divine into the world, into the objects, into materiality, by congealing that essence, solidifying it. And I wish that if there are any scientists among us, what in modern physics, I have just read because I'm very ignorant about science, but in quantum physics, I read one sentence of a famous German quantum physicist saying there is no solid matter. So it is all, I wish if any one of you knows physics, so it's a tremendous bridge, to dialogue with modern science. Nothing is just solid matter, but everything is a congealment, in our terms, of that essence of consciousness. And for the physicists, they will express it in different terms, energy and this and that. So this gives us a clue to bridging that matter, spirit, matter, energy, and so on. So there is nothing like simple matter or solid matter. But of course, to realize this, it's okay to read it or to make a statement like this, but to experience it, once you have identified yourself with a consciousness, once you experience that consciousness, and then you see it in all the objects, like we go into nature, and of course nature is much easier than if you look at a factory or some very ugly place in a modern city. You have to accept that this is also a congealment of consciousness, but in a very, descended down to a very low level. But nature, you meditate in nature, and you can experience that in every fragment, every leaf, every piece of stone, everything. So from the apparently solid nature of stone to Shiva, there's no break. It is a fluid flowing down. And then if your consciousness is awakened, flowing up, making all this universe. What is our role in practicing spirituality? It's not just to be very happy that I'm now I will be liberated in no time, and so on. But we are there to transform the world. So if our consciousness is transformed, the world will also be transformed. And that is, it is not something isolated, but it connects us with the whole of reality. And because our body itself is that microcosm of the divine macrocosm. And then you experience it in your body, experience it in nature and in the outside world. So this is a very important step to realize, yes. I can't hear.
Can sankocha also be interpreted as hesitation?
Sankocha?
Can it also be interpreted as hesitation? So it is our hesitation that pulls us through, or is it only contraction?
No. It is contraction. No, there's another word, this is kshoba. I have just written an article on kshoba that is good for psychologists. I can give you a copy. No. Sankocha means, contraction means constraint or limitation. So you're not making full use of that consciousness which is given to you. So you limit it to, or you are constrained by society, by education, I must also say, and by so many things. You are constrained, that heart is constrained and it cannot bloom, as Kshemaraja says about Abhinavagupta having made his heart bloom. So now he goes on with this theme of the microcosm of the body, which means that the body is divine. And so I'm just now reading the translation. As thus the Lord is universe-bodied, Vishva Shariram is so the individual experience also, because of consciousness being contracted, has the body of the entire universe in a contracted form, even just as the banyan tree is in a contracted form in its seed. Now here this comparison or this metaphor comes in the Paradrishika Tantra, Yatanya Groda Bijasta, but there that seed is stands for the Bija mantra. But that image or that metaphor is used very often for the divine consciousness, that it is in such, like it's in a bindu, it is just in a concentrated form, but that has the potentiality of growing into that huge banyan tree with so many branches and leaves and so on. So that seed is so tiny, but it has that whole potentiality of a universal expansion. And potentiality is, of course, in Sanskrit, Shakti. Like in the Paradrishika Vivarana, it has that power. So there are two images which are used in the Tantras. One is the seed of the banyan tree, and the other is the egg of the peacock, Mayuranda. Because in the egg of the peacock, it is just some plasma is there, and you can't distinguish anything. And out of that plasma, that beautiful peacock with so many colors and forms and movements comes out. So in that way, the divine consciousness contains everything in a contracted, concentrated form, and then it expands as that universal body. Now, he quotes from a Siddhanta. Siddhanta means from the Agamas, which, let's see. Vigraho vigrahi chaiva sarva vigraha vigrahi. Now sometimes Jaidev Singh is not completely satisfactory. Because the subject of this sentence is Shiva. I mean, it's not said, but it is Shiva. He is the body, the soul, and the soul of all bodies. Vigraha, vigrahi, chaiva, sarva vigraha vigrahi. It is Shiva who is the body, the vigrahi, the one who possesses the body, means the soul, and the soul of all the bodies. Sarva vigraha vigrahi. This comes from an agama. And then he quotes from, of course, the Tantras are full of texts about this microcosm, macrocosm. It's already in the Upanishads, but in the Tantras it is expanded to a much greater extent. That relationship between macrocosm and macrocosm. Now, in the Trishura Mata, that is a lost Tantra, it is said, now here there is an emendation which that Jaidev Singh could not know, but it has been amended. Those who know Sanskrit, please amend it. Instead of Sarva Deva Maya Kaya, it should be Sarva Tattva Maya Kaya. Tam cha idanim shrinu priye, pritivi kattinatvena, travatve amba prakirtitam. Priya means in the Tantras there always a dialogue between Shiva and Shakti, Shiva and Devi. So he addresses her, oh dear one. This body consists, well, there is a conception that the body consists of the gods, but the example he gives is clear, it speaks of the tattvas. This body consists of all the tattvas. And this, even in Ayurveda, many, the body consists of the tattvas. It is a common understanding in Ayurveda because the 5 cosmic elements and the pancha tattva, pancha-bhuta sharira, that is a very common understanding of the body. So this body consists of all the elements, like, and he gives an example, what is solid in the body comes from the earth element, what is liquid comes from the water element. It's very clear, it's very Ayurvedic understanding of the body. But this is, unfortunately, that quotation is only the beginning and the end is Trishiro Bhairava Sakshat Vyapya Vishvam Vyavastita. The three-headed Bhairava is present himself, pervading the entire universe. So this is the end of that passage which he quotes. Trishiro Bhairava Sakshat Vyapya Swayam Vishvam Vyavastita. He is present in sorry. Iti anena grantena grahakasya sankuchita vishvamayatvam vyaharati. Yeah. Now, Ayancha Ashaya. This is the intent, or this is the meaning. Grahakopi ayam prakashayikatmyena ukta agama yuktyacha vishva sharira shiva ekarupa eva. Even the individual being, Grahaka, even the individual being, because he is one with the light of consciousness, prakasha ekatmyena, according to this agama, he Vishva Sharira Shiva Aika Rupa. He is one with Shiva who has a cosmic body. Kevalam tan Maya Shaktya, only because of the power of Maya. Now, Maya Shakti is the power of differentiation. It's not that Vedantic Maya, but it's the power of differentiation. That is where you are in a dualistic understanding, and it's only beyond Maya that you can you enter into that non-dualistic understanding of consciousness. And due to that power of Maya, he is. This is not his unity, his oneness with Shiva is not manifest. And it is contracted, sankuchita. Only because of his Maya Shakti, means Shiva's Maya Shakti, the experience appears as contracted because his real nature is not manifested. Contraction also, now this is very important. Sankochopi vicharyamana chit aikatmyena pratamanatvat chinmaya eva. Now this is real Kashmir Shaivism. Kashmir Shaivism means not only Advaita, it means Paramadvaita. Paramadvaita means a non-dualism which does not exclude anything, even dualism. It does not exclude anything, even what is opposed to it. It does not try to defend or say, no, this is wrong. Nothing is wrong. So even this sankocha, even this contraction, sankochopi, if you think about it properly, vicharyamana, chit aikatmyena, because it is one with pure consciousness. Predominantly, it is one with pure consciousness. It is nothing but consciousness. So even that contraction itself, it is nothing but consciousness. Because, pratamanataya, how does it translate this? Contraction also, on close consideration, consists of consciousness only, since it is manifested only as of the nature of chit, and so on and so on. It becomes, if not, anyatha tu na kimchit. Otherwise it wouldn't be anything. That sankocha, sankuchita, it would not exist if it were not consciousness. Well, he has said in the beginning that you don't need logic, and he is not going to proceed through the method of logic and so on. But he doesn't use philosophical logic here, but he uses spiritual logic, I would call it. So you have, because it is all connected with experience. But still, there is a philosophy lying underneath, of course. It is sarvo grahako vishva sharira, and therefore all individual experience are universal, or have this microcosmic body, which is nothing but Shiva Pataraka. It is sarvo grahako vishva sharira Shiva Pataraka eva. So that is why the enlightened one, he sees in every person, he sees the divine. But this is a whole change of vision. And then he quotes something which is a bit funny. Akyatir yadi nakyati, kyatir eva avashishyate, kyati chet, kyati rupatvat, kyatir eva avashishyate. It's a kind of logical play. if non, I'm reading in a different translation, if non-manifestation is not manifest, non-appearance of identity with consciousness. Otherwise, nothing remains but consciousness. If it does appear, manifestation alone appears. So he's just playing with this Khyati and Akhyati. And then he quotes from the Spanda. Can you give me a copy of Spanda Karika? What we have just recited in the beginning. Thank you. Two, three, two, four. Yasmat sarvamayo jiva sarva bhava samudbhavat tat samvedana rupena tadatmya pratipatita tasmat shabdartha chintas sarvasta naya shiva. Because the jiva means the individual being, is identical with the whole universe, and concluding with, hence, whether in word or object or mental apprehension, there is no state which is not Shiva. And the full first verse is, since the limited individual self is identical with the whole universe, inasmuch as all entities arise from him, sarva bhava samudbhavat. And because of the knowledge of all subjects, he has the feeling of identity with them all. Hence, whether in word, object, or thought, there is no state which is not Shiva. Ityadina Shiva Jiva Yor Abheda Eva Ukta. And this expresses the non-duality of the individual and Shiva. Eta tattva parigyanam eva mukti. And the complete knowledge or realization of this constitutes liberation. Complete parignyana. Pari is always all round. Parignyana. This complete knowledge, complete realization constitutes liberation. Eta tattva aparijnanam eva bandha. And bondage is just the ignorance of this fact. Iti bhavishyati eva etat. Now, we come to the introduction to Sutra 5. So it is clear from this sentence also that liberation in this tradition of Pratyabhijñā is gnosis, is through knowledge, not through ritual, and not even through yoga, but through knowledge. But knowledge, of course, of the highest type. Now the introduction to Sutra 5. So he raises a question himself. Nanu grahakoyam vilkalpa maya vikalpanam cha chitta hetukam sati cha chitte katam asya shivatmakatvam iti shankitva chittameva nirnitum aha. The question about mind. An objection may be raised, that is, the subject or experience is of the nature of vikalpa. Now, vikalpa is such a crucial term in all the spiritual traditions of Buddhist or Hindu or yoga traditions. Vikalpa is that dualistic or thought construct, a thought which is not corresponding to reality, but which is an imagination. It is mostly translated as thought construct. Vikalpa is that which is the greatest obstacle to realization. Because we always imagine things, even in the spiritual field, we are full of ideas, full of thoughts, and which do not correspond to the experience or to the reality. So, if the subject or experience is of the nature of vikalpa, and vikalpa is due to chitta. Now chitta you can simply translate as mind. Chitta being there, how can he, that means the subject, be of the nature of Shiva? See, after all, we are so much identified with our mind. And our mind is going on making constructions and imaginations and projections and all kinds of things. Psychologists are there. How is it possible that this being is of the nature of Shiva? So then he answers in this Sutra 5. Chittir eva chetanat avarudha. So this is a typical play with all the levels of consciousness or mind. So analysis, and the Sanskrit is a wonderful language to express it with the same root, chit, chetana, chitta, chitti, etc. So once you have copied this, I will give you a list in order. We have started with chitti, svatantra, vishva, siddhi, hetu. So chitti is there, that ultimate completely independent, pure consciousness. And then this chitti descends down through chetana. Chetana is embodied in our conscious being to chitta, that is our mind, down to chetya, that is the object of the mind. The thing which is chetya, which is thought. From, if somebody of you knows Krishnamurti, freedom from the known, or for freedom from thought, that is from pure consciousness now down to the object of thought, chetya. So you have Jaidev Singh's translation, but I give you an alternative. Mind is none other than consciousness subjected to qualifications, having descended from chitti to chetana, and being... No, this is an explanation, this is not the translation, but chitta, mind, is nothing but chitti, nothing but that absolute consciousness, which has descended from the stage of chetana, from the stage of the conscious being. Avarudha has come down and has attained the contraction of the object of consciousness. So these are in descending order. It's very clear in Sanskrit. Chitti, of course, is the same as chit. There's no difference, pure consciousness. Then it gets embodied in the conscious being, that is chetana, and this is that embodiment, that limitation is our mind, chitta, and that mind then manifests in the external objects. Because the mind is precisely that which has vikalpa, which dualizes, which constantly engaged in, we had this verse, grahya, grahaka, subject-object dichotomy. This is the activity of the mind is always subject-object, subject-object. And chetya, then is that object of thought. Is anything missing? Not chittam nama anyat kimchit, that mind is nothing else. Apitu saiva bhagavati tat. It is that very lady consciousness, Bhagavati, that very goddess. Mind is nothing else but that very goddess, Chitti. And, later we will see that Kshemaraja, every author or every one of these great masters, they have their favorite deity. And when you read the whole text of the Pratyabhijñā Hṛdayam, his deity is consciousness. He always says Bhagavati and Bhattarika and so on. So his deity is Chitti, is Chit, and he doesn't give her any name. And so this is very beautiful, That's very. He has a very personal relationship with this Bhagavati. He says Chittam, Apitu Saiva Bhagavati. This is the same goddess. Now, Tatahi sat svam swarupam gopayitva yata sankocham grihnate. But she hides her own nature, and this is the whole trouble. She is the same goddess, but she is hiding her own nature. And that is why she she takes on contraction, because she is hiding herself. Tata dvai gati, and from there comes this duality, that she is hiding her own nature. Katachit ullasitam api sankocham gunikritya chit pradhanyena spurati katachit sankocha pradhanataya. So she, after all, the goddess is always playful, and that is in the whole. You remember in Pratyabhijñā Hṛdayam when he explains Devi. Devi, one aspect, one important meaning of Devi is she is playful. So, like a child in play hides him or herself. So she is playful. Sometimes she hides her nature. So in that case, we are not the subject. She is doing it. She is hiding her nature. And that's why we are in contraction. The problem is that we are always putting our own individual consciousness at the center. But it is not like this. We are in the hands of this goddess consciousness. And she is the one who is doing. She is also hiding herself. So, and by hiding, like children are playing hide and seek, sometimes one aspect is predominant and sometimes another aspect is hidden and the other is revealed and the other is revealed and the other is hidden. Chit pradhanya pakshe, when the pure consciousness is predominant, this is the natural state, sahaja. Prakasha matra pradhanatve vijnana kalata. In the case of Chit being predominant in its natural state and there being the predominance of Prakasha, its experience is Vijnana Kala. Here we come back to the seven experience. But I am not going again to this topic, which is a little complicated. But when so different aspects of her consciousness are predominant, which manifest at different stages of consciousness. This is what is meant. But so which again goes through those stages of the higher tattvas, like Sadashiva, Isha, and so on. But this is very consoling for us. Page 60, huh? Please follow the text. Samadhi prayatna uparjite tu chit pradhanatve shuddha atva brahmatrita kramat kramam prakarshavati. When predominance of consciousness has been achieved through samadhi. Now, samadhi means here not only the highest stage of yoga, but meditation. If through meditation you achieve a state of predominance, see, everything is fluid. It's not that you have one fixed state, but there is something, and with your meditation you make this state more and more predominant. That's why we are sitting for many hours in meditation to strengthen this level of consciousness. When predominance of consciousness has been achieved through samadhi, the pure path becomes even greater. That Shuddha Attva. Gradually, here kramat kramam. That means it's in the course of practice, of practicing samadhi, practicing meditation. Now, Shuddha Attva, the pure path, when you have the 36 tattvas, up to the level of Maya, it is the impure path, and from the Shuddha Vidya, from the pure wisdom, up to Shiva is the pure path. So once you have crossed Maya and entered Shuddha Vidya, you are in the pure path, and you can only ascend, you cannot descend, because that level of Maya has been crossed. And that is through the practice of samadhi. Samadhi, pradhanya, samadhi, prayatna, so there is still some effort. Trit pradhanya, tvi. Sankocha pradhanyetu shunya adi pramatrita. But if that contraction is predominant, then that it is that shunya pramata is a perceiver or a subject at the lower level of shunya, not exactly the higher shunya, but that level of unconsciousness, shunya pramata. Evam avasthite sati chittireva sankuchita grahaka rupa chetana padat avarudha. Now, this just repeats the same thing. Chitti itself, in the form of the limited subject descending from its stage of chetana, disposed towards comprehending objects. Now, here I have a beautiful word which I have translated differently. And page 61, for those who know Sanskrit, on the top, Artha Grahana Unmukhi Sati. Artha Grahana Unmukhi. She who is directed to grasp objects. And I have translated this as consumerism. Because this constantly, wanting to have something, wanting to grasp something. Artha Grahanonmukhi. The modern form is consumerism, because always you want something. You always project something outside and you want to fill that gap which is in yourself by having more things and everything. Artha Grahanonmukhi. Unmukhi means this tendency to possess objects. Artha Grahanonmukhi. It's a beautiful, very apt expression. So if that sankocha is there, that contraction, because then you feel something is lacking. If you are contracted, you always feel something lacking. So you compensate it by grasping objects. Artha Grahanonmukhi. Chetyana, Nila Sukadena Sankochini, and so on. Ubaya Sankocha Sankochita Eva Chittam. And this is the characteristic of the mind, which disposed. Well, Jaidev Singh says disposed towards comprehending objects. It's not comprehending, it's grasping. Grahana. Being limited by its objects of consciousness like blue, pleasure, etc., being limited by both limitations becomes the mind or individual consciousness. Then he quotes from the Pratyabhijñā. Svangarupeshu. Here I have another translation. Svangarupeshu bhaveshu patyur jnanam kriyachaya maya tritiye te eva pashu sattvam rajastama. The Lord's knowledge and action with Maya as the third, with reference to those things which are his own being, become for the Pashu is the limited individual, his Sattva, Rajas and Tamas, it means the qualities of Prakriti. But this, we cannot go into that interpretation. Iti adina svatantriyatma chitti shakti riva jnana kriya maya shakti rupa pashu dashayam sankocha prakashat sattva rajas tama svabhava chittatmataya spurati. Well, even jnana kriya, knowledge, activity, and the third shakti maya of the Lord appear as sattva, rajas, and tamas in the case of the Pashu, the limited individual. So these three Shaktis of the Lord become the three gunas of Prakriti in the limited individual, which are like his limbs. Svanga Rupeshu. By this and other such statements, it is clear that Chitti, which is of the nature of absolute freedom, which has the powers of Jnana, Kriya and Maya, appears owing to excess of limitation in the state of Pashu, the individual being, as Chitta, as mind, and so on. Now comes a quotation which is one of my favorite in this text. It's very consoling. Ataeva, too, it is from a Tattvagarbha Stotra. It is a tantric text, again a lost tantric text. Ataeva tu ye kechit paramartha anusarina teshan tatra svarupasya svajyotishtvam nalupyate. I'm making my own translation. Therefore, those who are followers of the ultimate reality, paramartha anusarina, and here it is no qualification. What is that ultimate reality? It is that those who are following that ultimate reality, paramartha, for them there is never any loss of the luminosity of their own nature. It's very beautiful. Svarupasya svajyotishtvam nalupyate. Their luminous nature can never be lost. So here it's not a statement about people who are already enlightened, but who are following the path of ultimate reality. Paramartha anusarina. So this is so universal, it can be applied in any tradition. Paramartha anusarina. Those who are following that ultimate reality or in search of that ultimate reality, their luminosity of their own nature can never be lost. So it is such a consoling statement, because in your spiritual life, sometimes you have ups and downs, and when you're down and saying, oh, what happened, and nothing is going on, and I'm not experiencing anything, and so on. No, you cannot lose anything. This is what my guru always said. You cannot lose anything. Once you have touched that, once you have in search of that ultimate reality, you will never lose it. You may subjectively think that you have lost it, but you have not lost it. This is beautiful. Just note it in your diary. So, we'll, I think, finish that sixth sutra also, because we have to proceed a little quicker, and this is also not so complicated. Chittameva tu maya pramatu swarupam the Maya Pramata is that limited individual. Limited individual, the nature of that limited individual is only mind, Chittameva. Then he says in the sutra, Tanmayo Maya Pramata. But this is very easy, and it's just a continuation of the previous one. Tanmaya means that limited individual, limited perceiver. He consists only of that, but that refers to Chitta. He is nothing but mind. That limited individual is nothing but mind. Deha prana padam tavat chitta pradhanam eva. And it is always a question not of exclusively, but what is predominant. See, what is predominant? If our consciousness is predominantly mind, then we are at that level of Maya Pramata. If it is predominantly Chitti, then we are at the level of the higher consciousness. But here, Chitta Pradhanam eva, if that mind is predominant, at which belongs to the level of body and prana, body and the vital energy. Chitta is predominant in the sphere of life and body. Deha prana padam. Shunya bhumir it api chitta samskara vati eva. The sphere of the void also consists of the samskaras of the chitta. This is very misleading, this shunya, use of shunya, because he mostly refers to a state of void which is not the highest, which is some in-between when you are trying to get out of that limitation and you have not yet reached that higher. So in between there is a state of kind of emptiness, or kind of, better to translate as emptiness maybe. He also criticizes certain yogis, who think that they have entered that state of shunya, but in fact they have, they are still, their samskaras, their impressions are still there. So when they get out of samadhi, all the same old things are coming up. This is very, they have not really crossed that barrier. And that is why the question is how we look at the individual being, whether as pure consciousness or as mind. And those of you who have done the Shiva Sutras last year, there are not many, there are in the Shiva Sutras, in 2 sections, the mind is, there are two levels. It starts as our Sutra 1 from the highest level, Chaitanya Mahatma. Consciousness is the innermost reality of everything and of the person. And then at the lower level, Chitta Mahatma, the self is mind. So that is at the level of Maya Pramata. Well, of course, a long commentary on the Shiva Sutra, etc. But this is just to complete that whole topic of mind and consciousness and the different stages through which consciousness travels downwards. And then mind rises upwards to that pure consciousness. There's not much time left, and I would, if you want to ask some questions, there would be. I think yesterday many questions came up, but they were not expressed.
Vikalpa again, you said Vikalpa is that one obstruction to one's journey. Is Vikalpa imagination? Vikalpa.
Vikalpa, yeah.
Could you explain? You said it is the obstruction. Vikalpa is the greatest obstruction in one's journey.
Yes, it's an important question. Vikalpa, we don't live without vikalpas. It's very difficult, to be free from thoughts or imaginations or whatever. So it's a question. Nirvikalpa, you reach a state of nirvikalpa at a very high level of samadhi and so on and so on. But again, there is a way out, because vikalpa is not only an obstruction, it becomes also an upaya. And I have not talked, because the text itself comes there. In Kashmir Shaivism, there are 4 stages of upayas, of means to liberation. And it's only at the highest, the highest 2 where you are in the state of nirvikalpa. But at the lower stages, you have to use vikalpa, because you have to use your mind and your thoughts, and they become an upaya. And the stage, the upaya where this is most practiced is Shaktopaya, the way of energy. And on the way of energy, you use what they call Shuddha Vikalpa, a pure thought. See, that is nothing pure and impure, has nothing to do with morality. It has to do with the content of the thought. If you practice Shivoham, for example, Soham, that is Shuddha Vikalpa. So you can start from the thought, from the content, and use it as a mantra, whatever, to reach that state of Nirvikalpa. So there are other Shuddha Vikalpas which, or your guru gives you something to work on. It may not be only a mantra, it may be a word, a sentence, an instruction. So that is Shuddha Vikalpa, and then you work with that. So you have to use your mind. And then by using your mind, you transcend it. So that's especially at the level of Shaktopaya, the way of energy. Where's the mic? Give the mic. Mic. Vandana.
So Vikalpa is both doubt and thought?
Yes. Because V means that separation, So is it this or is it that? It's always in a stage of restlessness, kind of, You're not the focused thought is not Vikalpa. Vikalpa is always something, so that's why it is also doubt. Any other translation?
What is the difference between Vedant, the Maya of Vedant, and Chitti of Kashmir Shaivism? Is there any difference?
Differentiation between?
Chitti,
And?
which is and Maya, Maya, the Vedantic Maya.
No, Vedantic Maya, I mean, if you compare with Vedanta, it is Chit. In Vedanta, Chit or Chaitanya. But Maya of Vedanta is not the same as the Maya here, because here Maya, first of all, is an energy of Lord Shiva. Even though she is obscuring, but she is a Shakti. She may be obscuring, but it is not like in Vedanta that the whole world is under this way of Maya, etc., etc. And Maya is anivachaniya, you can't define her, you can't explain her, and so on. Now here, Maya is a stage of the divine energy, but the one who has the power to obscure or to hide, as he says here beautifully. It's hiding the reality instead of revealing. And then, of course, the higher Shaktis are there. Yeah, but it's not Vedantic Maya.
Actually, I'm not quite clear on the question of hiding, that the universal consciousness, as opposed to individual consciousness, is this seductive attraction to explore the ultimate reality, and this is the path that gives you this luminous nature. So is this the hiding in order to make you luminous, to explore the ultimate reality?
No, hiding, I mean, we are reciting this Mangala Shloka of the Panchakritya. So hiding is actually one of the acts of Lord Shiva, Tirodhana. And of course the power who is activating all this is his Shakti, and his Shakti who is both hiding and revealing. So Shakti has always this double aspect, and that is why so much depends also on our which aspect of Shakti we are taking hold of. Whether we are consciously living in that hiding and concealing, or we are in that revealing aspect of Shakti. So Chitti Swatantra means Swatantra, freedom is not only of Shiva, it is also our freedom. Because if we are that microcosm of the divine, that freedom is also ours. And that is why I said this is the only philosophy which really has freedom at the central concept. And so freedom can go both ways. Yeah.
Is this also to distinguish between those who follow the path of consciousness, or they use their consciousness, and those who use their mind? And so it's hidden from those who use their mind.
Yeah. So a lot is left to us. Like he said that if you, with the effort of samadhi, you can, so there is an effort also at the lower stages, and then once you reach a stage of spontaneity and complete enlightenment is of course beyond effort. But that effort of meditation is there, which then refines our mind more and more, makes it more and more subtle and more transparent, and then it becomes transformed into that pure consciousness. This is the whole process. I think we conclude this session.